Part 16. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 151. You successfully resisted this attack from the Grey World. Defense points, 90 million. Comprehensive evaluation, SSS level. SSS exclusive rewards are being unlocked for you. Open SSS level rewards. A dazzling array of prizes suddenly popped up in front of Lu Shu. You have obtained the mythical ore, Sky Mending Stone X1000. You have obtained a building upgrade, Tianling Tower X1. You have obtained the city defense prop Tianqian Cannon X3. You have obtained a rare seed, Twin Sunflowers X100. You have obtained a rare seed, Ice Watermelon Pitcher X100. You got a rare seed, Corn Cannon X100. You got a rare seed, Giant Nut X100. You got a rare seed, Sea Mushroom X100. The area of your Sacred Tree Island has expanded by 10 million square kilometers. Ranking rewards will be issued when ranking points are announced. Sky Patching Stone. Lu Shu's eyes suddenly lit up. This is a mythical ore. Compared with any legendary ore, the Sky Mending Stone is more powerful. Even monsters with an S-level danger factor can be blocked from outside the defense line. The Spirit Gathering Tower was upgraded to the Heavenly Spirit Tower. The aura of the Divine Tree Island has become more intense. The addition of some new plants has also added new members to the army of magical plants. Corn cannons, ice watermelon pitchers, all in one stroke. And the giant nut has stronger defense. The twin sunflowers absorb twice as much sunlight as ordinary sunflowers. Whether it is the strength of the magical plant or the growth speed of the sacred tree, it is all because of the addition of the twin sunflowers. Got a 10% increase. Finally, sea mushroom. This kind of plant is quite special. It can only be planted in water. Lu Shu thought for a moment, his eyes suddenly turned to the sea, and his heart moved. The golden dragon koi carp was recently on the coast. A breeding line was set up specifically to raise fish for Lu Shu. Most of these fish have relatively gentle temperaments. But they will also encounter problems. Most of the fish are in the eyes of other ferocious fish. There is food in it. Therefore, Lu Shu's breeding farm will encounter attacks from deep-sea devilfish from time to time. The golden dragon koi is very active by nature and will not stay in one place for a long time when it enters the sea. Lu Shu also needs to practice, there is no time to take care of the fishery. In this way, the sea mushroom can become the defense line of the fish farm. In addition, if other sacred tree masters come to attack Lu Shu's island rashly, the sea mushroom can also lurk on the island. Nearby, from time to time, you can give the enemy a nasty shot. The effect must be good. At this moment, a notification sound suddenly echoed in Lu Shu's ear. Divine Tree Game starts the island battle mode. Your Sacred Tree Island is connected to 7 nearby Sacred Tree Master Islands. Remaining Sacred Tree Master Islands, 7. If you are willing to form an alliance with other Sacred Tree Masters, the information will be opened and you will have the option to chat with the Sacred Tree Masters. If you choose to fight, you will hide your identity and choose to capture the island within 7 days. Is there still a choice? Lu Shu naturally chose to fight. Forming an alliance with other Sacred Tree Masters does not exist if you put it here. Just kill him and that's it. He also doesn't plan to form an alliance with any Sacred Tree Masters. You have chosen your battle. When the island battle of the Divine Tree Master started, the entire Divine Tree game was shaken. World Public Screen. Divine Tree Master Island Battle? How come this setting appears? Damn it, what the hell is this? I guess I haven't matched with the Divine Tree Master upstairs yet, right? Does anyone have some knowledge on what the hell is this battle for the island about? To put it simply, as long as the boundaries of the Grey Mist begin to expand, your island will be connected to other Sacred Tree Masters. When the time comes, you will have to choose whether to attack the opponent or form an alliance. It must be an alliance. Otherwise, would it be fun to fight and kill all day long? Idiot, you are too naive. If you choose to form an alliance, your sacred tree island will be integrated with the islands of other sacred tree masters. By then, everyone will be indistinguishable from each other and will have to stare at each other all day long. The sacred tree master may not be happy. Do you really think everyone is willing to form an alliance? Moreover, killing your island will not only get your sacred tree, but also further expand the area of the island. The growth rate of the sacred tree will also increase with the expansion of the island. Most of the sacred tree masters, I am afraid they will all choose to attack. The sacred tree master on my side has chosen to attack. Is there a cute girl divine tree master who can form an alliance with me? I am 20 years old, I have first-class looks, good skills, handsomeness, and I also have A-level divine tree talent. Are you sure you're here to form an alliance, not a blind date? When the battle on the sacred tree island started, no one had reacted yet. Many sacred tree masters still have an alliance mentality. But these are the thoughts of the weak. Not many divine tree masters with truly powerful talents would even think of forming an alliance. The fruits of the divine tree master's talent are all his secrets. Who is willing to let a stranger come to him? Unless they have known each other for a long time. However, through the content of the chat box, Lu Shu unexpectedly discovered that a member of Mui Pavilion's guild was actually matched to compete for a sacred tree island. In this case, the sacred tree masters will form an alliance with each other. Because there are guild restrictions in it. Lu Shu couldn't help but wonder, could this be the purpose of Mu Yuge's choice to expand its membership? Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 152. Boom. At this moment, Lu Shu's consciousness sensed the sound of plate collisions coming from the merging of islands in the nearby sea. With a thought in his mind, he came to the observation tower. The observation tower has been upgraded so that it can not only see the situation in the sea, but also detect the situation of other islands if there are new sacred tree master islands nearby. Insight. After negotiation, the 2 sacred tree masters agreed to merge the islands together. Are there still 7 divine tree masters? Lu Shu muttered in his mind. To be precise. In the battle for the island he encountered this time, including Lu Shu himself, there were a total of 8 sacred tree masters. With so many sacred tree masters, some of them must be weaker. The sacred tree masters will choose to form an alliance with each other. After forming an alliance, there will be a contract that cannot harm each other. Once the contract is violated, the sacred tree will wither immediately. The islands are integrated together, and as long as the other sacred tree masters die, then the soil on the island will wither in an instant. In this way, it is equivalent to being bound to the fate of other sacred tree masters. Unless they have known each other for a long time and have had certain cooperation with the sacred tree masters, they will not easily choose to form an alliance. Or maybe some relatively weak sacred tree masters encounter a scene like today. There are too many sacred tree islands nearby. For the safety of their lives, they have to choose to form an alliance. Otherwise, how do you know whether it will happen next? Are the tree masters attacking? After forming an alliance, at least they will look bigger and not easy to provoke, and maybe they can avoid the thoughts of other tree masters. This is what the 2 tree masters who chose the island fusion thought. The other 5 sacred tree masters, 3 are still waiting and watching, not knowing what the battle for the island means. There are also 2 sacred tree masters with good talents, one of whom directly chose to take the initiative to attack, while the other did not plan to. They formed an alliance, but did not intend to attack, and adopted a defensive posture. They looked like they were not afraid of anyone. Let's start with you first. Lu Shu looked at the tree master who was in a defensive posture and showed a death-like smile. This Tree Master's island has gathered a huge amount of ore resources. Moreover, the talent of the Tree Master, although not direct the defensive building has been upgraded, but it has the ability to control the 5 elements. Simply put, the opponent's abilities are related to the 5 elements, and it is almost a profession like a magician. Although Lu Shu now has no shortage of elemental attack methods, he has no ability to attack elemental types. There is a certain demand for superpowers. If you have fire attribute superpowers, you can not only improve the ability of Fireball, but also enhance the Divine Fire. To put it simply, the Divine Fire gifted by Wu Tongfeng to Lu Shu, if it has the 5 elements superpowers, will have a stronger effect. UMI, possessing Squirtle. Squirtle, prepare to go to sea and go to the islands of other Tree Masters. Pikachu, Little White Fox, Angelman. You all should follow. As soon as Lu Shu finished speaking, these little guys, sensing that they could cause trouble, immediately came over. At this moment, several notification tones rang in Lu Shu's ears. Ding! You got the Life Fruit X1. Ding! You have obtained 3 God-level growth fruits. As usual, Lu Shu immediately buried these fruits in the soil. Subspecies of spiritual trees rise from the ground one after another. Life Fruit Tree. Variety, Subspecies Spirit Tree. Product, Life Fruit. Cycle, 0.5 days, 365/650. Production times remaining, 1. God-level growth fruit tree. Variety, Subspecies Spirit Tree. Product, Life Fruit. Cycle, 0.5 days, 365/650. Remaining production times, 1. But Lu Shu did not choose to wait until these fruits matured before setting off. The battle for the Sacred Tree Island will only last for 7 days. It's best to deal with all these enemies before we start. Even if you don't have the Divine Tree Master talent you like, it can expand the scope of the island and add a certain amount of space for the deep sea exploration scope behind Squirtle. No matter what, getting rid of other enemies is a sure way to make money. With Umi's blessing, Squirtle's movement speed has been greatly increased. The mighty pet army began to move towards the Sacred Tree Island as fast as possible. 5 Elements Island. A young man with hair as colorful as a rainbow sat in the center of the island. As his thoughts moved, the 5 elements in this island were immediately mobilized. At first glance, I really thought that this young man was like the god of the island. Can call upon the wind and rain, omnipotent. Can control everything. In fact, the 5 elements divine tree has a certain domain halo effect. Just like the TNG formation. The Divine Tree Master only needs to stay on the island to enjoy the blessings of the domain and control the 5 elements. The boy summoned the power of the wind and sensed the movement around him. Once something happens around him, he will immediately control all the elements to form a 5-element formation and kill the enemy immediately. Anyone who dares to enter my realm is seeking death. The corners of the young man's mouth curled up slightly. He didn't expect to be able to fight for the Sacred Tree Island and gain too much. But if someone dared to offend him regardless of life and death, then he would let the other person know what the pain of death is. The next second, 100 Squirtle suddenly appeared around the boy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 153. What? The young man's expression suddenly changed. How did these enemies come in? Didn't he clearly use Feng Liu's breath to sense the surrounding situation? At this moment, the young man suddenly realized a great sense of crisis. The Divine Tree Master opposite, could he be someone from the Dark Knight Alliance who was able to capture his side silently? Squirtle, launch a megaton punch. Lu. Shu commanded calmly. 100 squirtles burst out with extremely terrifying power and smashed towards the boy. Turtle. When Ding Qing saw it, the boy was stunned. The enemy was a group of turtles? No way. No way. There was no time to think about it. The combat experience made the boy instinctively switch his form to the water attribute. Elementalize his own constitution. Is a method that the 5 elements divine tree master is particularly good at. It can be immune to physical attacks to a certain extent. This skill is quite fragrant. However, the boy transformed his body into a water attribute. Lu Shu had to gently hook the corner of his mouth curled up. You know, Squirtle has the superpower of swallowing the water fruit. He has a unique talent in the water attribute. And the huge mental power, multiplied by 100 times, can even allow the young man to fight back. All methods are useless. The ability to control water. The young man suddenly felt that his body transformed into water attribute was being pulled by a particularly fatal force. Someone can actually restrain my water attribute. It's just a bunch of turtles. How could their ability to control water properties be better than mine? At this moment, the young man's expression has completely changed. The bastard whom he has always looked down upon actually killed him instantly in the field of water attributes. This is just a group of turtles. The divine tree master opposite should have a summoning talent. But isn't the ability of summoned beasts usually much weaker than that of the divine tree master? Why are all these Squirtles so terrifyingly powerful? There was no time to think about it. The boy immediately changed the form of the attribute. Changed to fire. Attributes. Squirtle, use the water cannon. Lu. Shudeo. It may not be a particularly good solution for a boy to attribute his own fire element. Although the fire and water attributes have no fixed form, they can be immune to physical attacks, but the fire attribute has a flaw. That is to say, he will be restrained by the water attribute. Although the boy's body is divided into balls of flames, and the flames begin to spread in all directions, it can minimize the damage. However, Squirtle's water attribute being able to attack still had a big impact on the young man. Boom! A series of water cannons exploded the water curtain in the sky. The young man's embarrassed figure suddenly half knelt on the ground, his chest heaving violently, and his eyes were filled with emotion. Shocked look. How could this enemy be so strong? At the beginning, these silly turtles made the boy relax his vigilance. He thought he was a funny divine tree master, but he found that he couldn't even defeat a turtle on the opposite side. Let alone 100. 2 turtles, attacking at the same time, were completely crushed and beaten. They had no ability to fight back at all. This was only possible on my own sacred tree island, with the blessing of the halo, so that I could withstand a series of attacks. But what if? In the gray world, when encountering these terrible enemies, there really is no way to fight back. The next second, 100 little white foxes suddenly escaped from the void. Besides, there was a look of despair in the young man's eyes. Soon, this look of despair suddenly turned ferocious. Since you insist on my death, then I will let the entire island perish with you. The 5 elements were transformed into the young man's pupils. The entire divine tree island suddenly began to tremble violently. The 5 elements divine tree in the center of the island burst out with a burst of bright light. The next second, the young man's body began to show an aura that was like a world-destroying one. It was a blow that consumed the divine tree, merged with the 5 elements, and launched a devastating blow. Clank clank. A sound of a piano suddenly came from the guangan chin in Lu Shu's hand. The sound was like to penetrate the world. Activate the power of the purple air eye. Release the illusion, at the same time. 100 Pikachu, possessed by Yumi, open the Mangekyo Sharinan. Activate the illusion Tsukuyomi, the noise of the world and the earth suddenly changes. It stopped. The young man's eyes were full of confusion, as if he had lost his soul, staring blankly ahead. Enough. Lu Shu shrugged lazily. It was just to see how the young man's powers were. By the way, he also had a discussion with the powers of other sacred tree masters. In general, although the 5 elements divine tree, it is not a very advanced ability. At least for Lu Shu, it can only be said to be average, right? However, the attack methods are unpredictable, and the means to match the aura of the sacred tree. Most of the sacred tree masters are located in the divine tree. When the tree is within the range of the island, some counterattacks can still be made. This shows that the power of the sacred tree master cannot be underestimated on the island. If Lu Shu's strength is not too overwhelming, ordinary sacred tree masters capturing the island is not an easy task either. Little White Fox, deal with each other. Lu Shu ordered. The little white fox immediately released the power of the dark fruit. A dead black light suddenly swallowed up the boy's voice. At the same time, a prompt popped up in front of Lu Shu. You killed the sacred tree master Lin Ziyi. Obtain the sacred tree, 5 elements. Divine tree add 1. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 154. Divine Tree, 5 Elements. Stage, Advanced Spiritual Tree. Sunlight, 410/day, 4.1x100. Spiritual Energy, 340/day, 3.4x100. Product, Fruit of Fire. Divine Tree Aura, 5 Elements Domain. Production Cycle, 2 days, 1300/650. Growth Points, 25,500, 21.4x100 equal 2140/day. Next stage, Holy Tree, 20,000 growth points. This panel popped up in front of Lu Shu's eyes. The 5 elements sacred tree island suddenly made a roaring sound. The power of a god that was like rebuilding the world, the next second. Islands have been merged. The area of Lu Shu's island has once again expanded. At the same time, in the island battle of the Divine Tree Master, the number on the remaining number panel jumped a bit. The island of Divine Tree Master Lin Ziyi has been successfully captured. Number of people in island battle, 6. Time remaining, 6 days. Sacred Tree Island. In. A black-haired woman dressed in black, with a dashing appearance and an ancient martial arts style, controls the waves and flies across the vast sea. When her figure passed over the sea, it turned into an extremely sharp sword energy, cutting through the boundless ocean and dividing the sea water into 2 lines. It is enough to show that the black-haired woman has extremely strong supernatural talents. This time when she was riding the waves, she wanted to capture the islands of other sacred tree masters. At this moment, a prompt popped up in front of the black-haired woman's eyes. The island of Divine Tree Master Lin Ziyi has been successfully captured. Number of people in island battle, 6. Someone has actually completed the capture. There was a trace of surprise in the eyes of the black-haired woman. In just one day, someone actually successfully completed the capture of the island. This speed is not unpleasant. It seems. This time in the battle on the Sacred Tree Island, a master appeared. The black-haired woman did not feel flinched by this. On the contrary, her eyes revealed a strong fighting spirit. I have to say, this woman has a fighting talent in her blood. See, when a strong man appears, even though he knows that he will face more dangerous tests in the future, the blood in his bones will become more and more excited. The next second, the black-haired woman continues to break through the waves and rush towards a farther direction. At the same time, the other 2 Divine Tree Masters who were watching took a deep breath. In this battle, a ruthless character appears. Damn it, you ate the island of a Sacred Tree Master in less than a day. You won't meet the leader in the rankings, right? Do you want to form an alliance? Forget it, let's just wait and see for a while. If we can't form an alliance, it's better not to form an alliance yet. At this time, the battle for the sacred tree masters on other islands is also ongoing. The experience gained by the bosses, first, for the sake of your own future development potential, try not to form alliances with other sacred tree masters, otherwise you don't know whether the other party will hold you back. Second, if you have the strength, you can go attack the islands of other sacred tree masters. 3. If you are a relatively weak sacred tree master, try to stay in your own sacred tree island. In this way, fighting others on your own territory can make up for the lack of combat ability. 4. If you encounter more than 2 sacred tree masters joining an island station, you can first explore each other's information before making a decision. If you meet a strong person, it is best to form an alliance with other sacred tree masters, otherwise you may face the risk of being killed. Certainly, most divine tree masters choose the third option. Belongs to moderate thinking and practice. As long as others don't provoke you and hide in your own sacred tree island, you will be safe. As for the remaining 2 divine tree masters who were already in alliance. Oh my god, there is such a big boss in the island battle. Fortunately we chose to form an alliance. In this case, the big boss probably won't choose to kill us. The island gets new expansion. The range of islands explored by Lushu has become larger again. It can already sink to 10,000 meters below the abyss. The Water God Palace has become an area that can be explored. The island where the 5 elements sacred tree was wiped out. In the center of Lushu's island, a new sacred tree was planted side by side with other sacred trees. It only takes 2 days, when the fruit of fire matures. Lushu will be able to obtain new 5-element powers. Next, kill the 2 sacred tree masters who have formed an alliance. The other 2 sacred tree masters can also send their troops separately. It is better to complete the capture in the shortest possible time. Lushu's eyes moved slightly. Then, the troops were divided into 3 groups. 50 Squirtles, following Lushu's clones, went to destroy the allied divine tree master. The other 50 Squirtles each took half of the pet army went to eliminate the 2 sacred tree masters who chose to defend. The last sacred tree master, the woman in black. Lushu noticed that the other party was heading towards his own sacred tree island. Since the other party came to kill people, then Lushu would save himself the trouble of going to other people's sacred tree islands. Anyway, if he kills the opponent's sacred tree master, the corresponding sacred tree will also be his own. Squirtle's large army marched towards them in a mighty manner. He headed towards his destination. Soon, the nearest island of the allied divine tree master appeared in Lushu's field of vision. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 155. Allied Islands of Tree Masters. A tall barrier located around the sacred tree island. We have gathered enough 50,000 high-grade ores. This barrier alone is enough to block ordinary sacred tree masters. Once we find that the other party has come in, the 2 of us will use our special powers to interfere with the place. Advantages of having barriers. It shouldn't be that easy for the opponent to attack. Among them was a long-haired young man with a sword on his waist and an ancient swordsman's outfit. He said with a serious face. Next to him, a lazy black-haired young man looked a little careless and said with a smile. Maybe the other party sees that we are allied and is not interested in coming to attack. The long-haired young man shook his head and said the opponent has a strong sense of attack, otherwise he would not have captured a sacred tree island in just 1 day. No. The young man put forward a different point of view. If we choose to form an alliance, it means that the talent of the divine tree master is relatively weak. There is no benefit to him getting our sacred tree. Moreover, now that we have chosen to form an alliance, we must be a harder nut to crack. According to the general idea, the attack is done last. By the time he gets rid of the other people and comes to see us again, He probably only has a day or two left. Therefore, as long as we choose to form an alliance, we will be very safe. The long-haired young man thought for a moment. It seemed to make sense. In that case, then he didn't seem to have to worry too much. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of the wall collapsing suddenly came from around the sacred tree island. A bright sword light suddenly fell from the sky. The barrier collapsed instantly. Bursts of dust suddenly enveloped the entire sacred tree island. The enemy's sacred tree master. The long-haired young man and the black-haired young man looked at each other. They both saw deep shock in each other's eyes. Damn it! Did you promise that you would not easily offend the allied sacred tree master? Why is this big brother not play according to the rules? Damn it! The boy felt a pain in his face. As soon as he said this, he was slapped in the face. This feeling is not very pleasant. Moreover, the divine tree master broke through directly from the front. This high-level defense barrier is just like paper same, it's broken just because you say it is broken? Is it too exaggerated? The long-haired young man took a deep breath. From the scene in front of him, he could deduce that the strength of this sacred tree master completely exceeded his and his teammates' imagination. Basically, they were unstoppable. Let's run away quickly. Doesn't your superpower allow you to move in water? Let's dive into the ocean floor. Maybe the opponent doesn't have water attribute powers, and if he hides in the sea, he might be able to gain some breathing space and survive. Hearing the suggestion of the long-haired young man, the young man nodded quickly, and moved his fingers with the mysterious magic formula, making a burst of changes. The next second, he immediately communicated with the surrounding elements. The power that can drive the sea. It is not an elemental type of ability. Lu Shu turned on his purple pupil power and saw clearly the nature of the boy's superpower. It is not the same as the 5 elements or magic. The boy's superpower is more inclined to the Taoism of Eastern talismans. However, some 5 elements Taoism also it can be used to communicate with the power of nature. It's just that the process is a little more troublesome. You have to go through the magic formula and communicate with Taoist magic, and then you can cast the corresponding power. Therefore, the level is not too high. In the God Tree game, the types of powers let 100 flowers bloom. Some powers may seem to have the same effect, but due to the essential part of the powers, they may not be the same. After using the effects, they are divided into 3, 6, or 9 levels to distinguish different levels of powers. Lu Shu smiled lightly, said it's interesting. Although it's just an inconspicuous superpower. However, the nature of the superpower is different, and it may have unexpected effects in the future. Hearing what Lu Shu said, the two of them were suddenly in a state of doubt. This is what they saw, the worst-case scenario. The other party doesn't care at all whether their divine tree talent is good or not. As long as they have it, they need it. That kind. In fact, if it weren't for the battle for the sacred tree island, Lu Shu would not be interested in the general sacred tree talent. After all, the islands of the sacred tree masters killed in the Grey World cannot be integrated. There are too many for an island, different forces must be divided to guard it. If the talent is not good, Lu Shu will not bother. However, from the battle for the sacred tree island, the sacred tree master who was solved, not only can integrating the island can also expand the exploration range of the seabed. In this way, as long as you can kill the sacred tree master, regardless of the talent of the sacred tree, the expanded island range can increase the exploration space of the abyss, and you will definitely make money. Plop! There was a sound of water. The boy used his water power and led his teammates into the seabed. Squirtle, get rid of them. Lu Shu lazily transmitted the message with his spiritual thoughts. It would be better for them to enter the sea, so as not to have to do it themselves. This time, Lu Shu just wanted to test his talent in cultivating immortals to deal with other sacred tree island defenses. How is the effect? The result is quite satisfactory. The Xuxian sword can chop down the barrier made of high-grade ores with one sword. In this way, the defense line of few Divine Tree Masters can block Lu Shu's attack. Haley, there was a sudden movement. In just a few seconds, the two Sacred Tree Masters had been eliminated. Several prompts popped up in front of them. You killed the Divine Tree Master Zhang San and obtained the Sword Divine Tree. You killed the Divine Tree Master Li Si and obtained the Taoist Divine Tree. Divine Tree add 2. The Sacred Tree Islands are merging. Your island range expands to 13 million kilometers. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 156. Boom. With a violent sound, the Sacred Tree Island merged again. Lu Shu's island area has expanded to 15 million square kilometers. Have to say. Capture the islands of other Divine Tree Masters. It's really the fastest way to expand your scope. I sighed inwardly. This means that after several Sacred Tree Masters have been eliminated, the scope of the island has increased a lot. The exploration range of the sea can now be dived to 12,000 meters. And the two Sacred Tree Masters, the panel also popped up in front of Lu Shu. They are all sacred trees with talents around B level. It doesn't seem to have much effect if they are kept. What will you get if you break down the sacred tree? At this moment, this idea came to Lu Shu's mind. The extra sacred tree was kept useless, but he had decomposed it. Maybe he could decompose it into something? Sorry, your decomposition skill illustration level is insufficient. Requires master level decomposition skill illustration. Decompose the sacred tree to obtain divine life essence and speed up the growth of the sacred tree. Do you still need master level decomposition? Lu Shu frowned slightly. After exploring so many areas in the Grey Realm, it seems that I rarely get decomposed skill illustrations. Forget it, keep it for now and look at it later. Lu Shu secretly thought in his heart. The Sword Divine Tree can produce some sword-related skill fruits and even weapons. Of course, the level of these weapons cannot be compared with the Xuxian sword. At most, they can only be listed in the transaction interface, exchange for something. The Taoist Divine Tree is relatively pure, it is a superpower fruit, but the B-level superpower is of no use to the Lu tree, but it can grow subspecies spiritual trees, and maybe you can get more stuff. If you put in the past, Lu Shu would be worried about whether other sacred tree masters would obtain superpower fruits and become very strong, which would snowball. But now if it is just a B-level superpower fruit, then Lu Shu can't do anything to it at all. It will cause any impact, even if it can be matched with superpowers. Lu Shu has too many methods now. Therefore, you can sell superpower fruits and strive for greater profits. After all, if you don't change them yourself, others will. Better to maximize benefits. We have arrived at the two sacred tree islands. Lu Shu's eyes moved slightly. Through the power of resonance, he was linked to pets on other sacred tree islands. Where do these monsters come from? Damn it! How could they be so powerful? The two sacred tree masters defending the sacred tree island showed a look of despair. The next second, the little white fox activated the ability of the dark fruit and swallowed their figures instantly. And all the defense lines were destroyed by Pikachu's Mangekyo Sharinon. After seeing through it, most of them can rely on Squirtle's water fruit to directly attack the interior of the sacred tree island and kill the sacred tree master in the core area. Wanjun, as a ranking powerful sacred tree master, man, even he may not be able to stop Lu Shu's army, let alone these divine tree masters who are relatively average in strength and have talents between B level and A level. Although they have many methods, after upgrading the Holy Seraph Beast, Little White Fox and Pikachu, plus the possessed Uami, and Squirtle who has devoured a lot of growth fruits and gained new skills. These methods, placed in front of the top superpowers, it doesn't work at all. Not to mention, these pets with top-notch superpowers are not just one or two, but a large army of hundreds. The defense line of the Sacred Tree Island can be destroyed with overwhelming force. It's very easy. Quick. 2 prompts popped up in front of Lushu again. You killed the Divine Tree Master Li Dachui and obtained the Great Hammer Divine Tree. You killed the Dream Tree Master and obtained the Dream Tree. Divine Tree add 2. Your Sacred Tree Island is merging. The scope of the Sacred Tree Island has expanded to 20 million square kilometers. Boom. As the sound of a vision sounded, the next second, Lushu's Sacred Tree Island has once again received huge expansion. The exploration range of the Abyssal Sea directly reaches 15,000 meters. This means that Lushu can explore a wider area in the abyss again. Lushu opens the panel. Number of people in island battle, 1. Number of days remaining, 4. In just 3 days, Lushu defeated 5 enemies at the same time. But there is only one person left at the island station. Description: the other side of the island battle. Among them, another Divine Tree Master also successfully completed the capture of an island. Interesting. Lu Shu smiled. He sensed that the other party was a woman. This was not because the enemy Divine Tree Master appeared near him. It was because she came near his Divine Tree Island. Through the lookout, Lushu in his field of vision, the appearance of the Sacred Tree Master, a black-haired, stern woman. The other party's panel information was also displayed in front of him. Divine Tree Master, Z. Superpower, fighting intention takes shape. Comprehensive strength, S and level. Talents, fighting will fruit, S level, top skill illustrated fruit, A and level, fighting will field, S level. Luck, E. Spirit S plus. Fruit of fighting spirit. Is it the ability to transform one's fighting spirit into one's form, to gather the fighting spirit and become stronger? There are also abilities similar to Overlord color hacking. It's quite interesting. After observing the panel for a while, Z has already entered the range of his Sacred Tree Island. Lushu couldn't help but sigh, this girl is really not afraid of death. The fighting spirit is certainly the source of her strength, but she is too warlike. This is not a good thing. Even if her pet army has not returned yet, the Netherworld army on the island is not something she can handle. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 157. On the Blue Sea. A figure is walking on the waves. Z followed the direction of the island's roar and rushed over. Based on her prediction, the sound was probably caused by the island fusion after killing other Sacred Tree Masters. This way. It is basically certain that, the direction from which the voice came is the strong man who killed all 5 Divine Tree Master Islands in a few days. Did not expect. This time in the battle on the Sacred Tree Island, I was able to meet such a big boss. If you want to defeat that guy, you must choose to outwit him. Ziya took a deep breath, feeling a little depressed. Open the panel. In just 3 or 4 days, the 5 Sacred Tree Islands have been breached by that mysterious strong man. Of course, other gods cannot be ruled out. It is possible that the Tree Masters are relatively weak. Even if the weak Sacred Tree Masters form an alliance, they will never be able to stop the Sacred Tree Masters with extremely powerful talents. But, this guy was killed too quickly, right? It has only been a few days. By the time, this 7-person Sacred Tree Island battle is about to end. According to the discussions among the Sacred Tree Masters in the world public screen. Generally, they will be matched to the same Sacred Tree Island battle, usually because of the expansion of the area, therefore, connects islands in different sea areas together, thus creating settings such as fusion and battle. But it is still the early stage of island battles. Most island battles are one-on-one mode. A small number of the scale of the island battle will be expanded to 3 to 4 people. But so far, Z has not seen many island battles that can be expanded to 7 people. What does this mean? The big changes that occurred in this island battle, man, it's definitely beyond my imagination. Maybe it's one that's very high on the rankings. At least in the top 20. Z felt tremendous pressure. But at the same time, the desire to fight in her body was like a raging flame. Burning up. Seeing the invincible target and the terrifying enemy. Although Z will feel tremendous pressure. But her fighting spirit talent will also transform this pressure into excited fighting spirit, and to provide continuous fighting motivation. This is also the source of fighting spirit. If this sacred tree master fights head-on, I will definitely not be my opponent. However, while he is attacking other sacred tree islands, there will definitely be huge loopholes in his own island. At least, his true body is definitely not in the sacred tree island. It's not like I have no chance of winning. If we can capture the island before his body returns to the sacred tree island, it is very possible to win the battle for the island directly and severely damage his talent. This is my only chance to win. Z's eyes were burning, and he looked at the huge island that appeared on the distant sea. It was so big. His pupils shrank slightly. The huge sea area, like a new continent, stood in the center of Z's field of vision. It was so big. The long coastline seems to be endless in sight. An ore defense line hundreds of meters high blooms with the luster of colored glaze. Under the sunlight, it reflects a gorgeous and dreamy luster. Just look directly at the color of the colored glaze with your eyes. Z felt her eyes sting. There was a strong look of shock in her eyes. Is this really the island of the Divine Tree Master? Are you sure it's not a lost mysterious country? That huge oppression, the feeling even broke through Z's fighting spirit, making her find it hard to breathe. Just like an ant standing in front of a giant, it was difficult to look up at this huge island. Even if she stretched her neck, she couldn't see it. How powerful can this island's sacred tree master be? Z's eyes couldn't help but reveal a strong look of shock. Just the length of the coastline of this island is already his own island, which is completely incomparable. Not to mention the magnificent buildings, which are simply better than the technology. The civilization was shocked hundreds of times, as if a mythical country was restored in front of Z. Yet. Calm. I have no chance of winning against this enemy. Although his sacred tree island building is very powerful, I have an SSS-level power. As long as they capture this island while the other party is away, it shouldn't be a problem. After some hesitation. Finally. A golden light bloomed in Z's eyes. The next second, the nearby sea area was suddenly separated into a channel. Following this channel, Z walked on the waves, and the figure moved at a speed. In an instant, like a golden arrow, it cut through the sea. In a short period of time, it arrived at the sacred tree island. No, it should be said to be the coastline of the sacred tree continent. Z knew that this battle would happen if he hesitated. Defeat requires ending the capture in the shortest possible time. That Divine Tree Master was able to wipe out several Divine Tree Masters' islands in such a short period of time. In terms of movement speed, it must be very fast. The island, the sound of merging just came. Z can be sure that the opponent has just completed the capture and it will take a certain amount of time to return to the island. This is her last chance. Gather fighting spirit. Z's eyes burst into golden light. The glazed stone defense line standing in front of her is the first threshold. Only by crossing the glazed stone defense line can one successfully reach the sacred tree island. Of course Z did not take this line of defense seriously. Just need to gather fighting spirit. This defense line can be broken easily, right? She headed towards the defense line, without any extra thoughts, and rushed in. The next second, the glazed defense line suddenly reflected a ray of light. It turned into a shock with such force, Zi's figure was instantly bounced away. Ziya only felt a burst of chest tightness. After being pushed away by the huge force, the energy and blood all over his body were shaken by the shock. Ahem! A touch of bright red blood overflowed from her red lips. How is it possible? Ziya stared at the defense line in front of her, with an incredible look in her eyes. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 158. My fighting spirit. He was actually bounced back by this line of defense. How can it be? Zi's chest rose and fell violently. That's right. She really felt that the attack that hit her was definitely an attack from the fighting spirit skill. That is her own power. A defensive line that will rebound? Still, is there such an incredible existence? Absolutely impossible. Ziya didn't believe it. None of the sacred tree masters on the opposite side were here. Zedong couldn't be completely blocked by a line of defense, right? He gathered his fighting spirit again. Ziya launched a second round of attacks towards the line of defense. Boom! Another counter-attack force blocked her from passing here. But Z was aroused with a stronger fighting spirit. The spirit of not admitting defeat turned into the power source of fighting spirit. Once again, the collision was launched towards the defense line. Boom! It lasted for 10 minutes. Z's figure was bounced back several times. Blood was constantly seeping from the corners of her mouth, and she looked extremely embarrassed. Take it out a wine gourd. I don't know what kind of potion is contained in the pot to restore injuries. A burst of green light shrouded Zi's body. As he drank the wine in the pot, Zi's injuries quickly healed. Recovery. But at this moment, she no longer chose to fight against the defense line. Instead, she chose to use another power. The next second, Zi's figure performed a shadow teleportation. The glazed stone stirred for a while. The counterattack light wanted to prevent Z's figure from passing through the defense line. At this moment, those black eyes showed a strong look of shock. This defense line is really crazy. Even the Divine Tree Master's superpower, it can be blocked. Who can withstand it? Fortunately, the superpowers used by Z were also high-level superpower fruits exchanged from the hands of an A-level Divine Tree Master. After some struggle, he barely passed Glazed Stone's line of defense. Before coming here, who would have thought that just passing through a line of defense would cause him so much embarrassment? This sacred tree island is really weird. Even a sacred tree defense line has such a powerful ability. However, this also shows that the sacred tree master may not have much talent in defense, so he spent a lot of money to build such a line of defense to prevent the invasion of monsters. Ziya thought about it carefully and was not intimidated by the defense line. Firstly, it must have consumed a lot of resources to build such a powerful defense line. Secondly, the Divine Tree Master who was able to spend such a large amount of money to build the defense line, it seems to be very strong, but on the other hand, the island's defense may not be very good. Because strong aggression means there will be deficiencies in defense. And the Sacred Tree Master spent so much money just to, in Z's eyes, building a line of defense is to make up for his lack of defense. As long as this line of defense is passed, the next journey will be much easier. Use the ability to teleport again. I don't know. Unconsciously, Ziya has arrived in front of the second line of defense. Suanwu mine. This line of defense is extremely strong, but it does not have the power of glazed stone to block supernatural powers. Ziya passed this line of defense smoothly. There was a hint of excitement in her eyes. Sure enough, this sacred tree master just deployed the most powerful line of defense on the outermost part of the island. But the defense inside is much weaker. At this time, far away, A pea suddenly shot at Z at high speed. Z reacted and quickly turned sideways. Magical plant. Recognized the pea attack. Z is not unfamiliar with this. She has opened S-level treasure chests and obtained some magical plant seeds. Of course. After some attempts, Z could only find out helplessly. The attack power of these magical plants is quite limited, and the defense of the sacred tree island is useless. It is better to save the peas and use them to make dry food outside the grey world. After all, the fruit of the sacred tree is too slow to produce. However, this pea is just the beginning. The next second, countless peas cover this place like a hail of bullets. How come there are so many peas? Ziya was shocked and looked towards the sky. A moving flying fortress, as if it came from a large super-tech spaceship, shrouded Ziya's head. Above the fort, tens of thousands of pea shooters, watermelons pitchers, as well as various countless plant armies, jointly launched a full-scale fire attack at Z. This, so many plants. Zi's brain shut down in an instant. Is not enough to describe my mood at this moment. Usually when you open a treasure box, don't you only get hundreds of magical plant seeds as a gift? Where did this huge army of plants come from? Come out. The number of times everyone has invaded the grey world should be the same. There is no way this guy has experienced thousands of battles and opened countless S-level treasure chests, right? In Zi's brain, there is no when he reacted. The hail of bullets composed of a large area of magical plants covered the entire sky and headed towards Zi's body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 159. What a beautiful thought. Zis snorted coldly. Her body was suddenly enveloped by a layer of golden aura. The next second, when peas, watermelons, and other plants poured onto Zis body, all attacks were caused by this golden aura. The Genki shield resisted it. Fortunately, my fighting spirit can be transformed into a means of defense. Although there are a lot of these plants, their attack power is not as high as I thought. Therefore, it cannot pose any threat to me. Ziya took a long breath. After a long time, he showed a smile. He was really too panicked just now. He was startled by this mighty army of plants. But now it seems that the number of these armies is just too much. A little, but the attack power is not beyond my cognitive scope. Think about it. I am an S-level divine tree master. There is no need to be afraid of a group of magical plants, right? If an S-level divine tree master can still being hummed by a group of plants that can't speak or think is really the most ridiculous thing in the world. Z's expression became more relaxed. As long as the Tiangang Qi shield is maintained, no matter how huge the firepower is, unable to cause any substantial harm to themselves. At this moment, a huge mysterious pattern suddenly appeared on the ground. At this moment, the Tianji array seemed to be operating. The center of the Divine Tree Island, the mythical building, affected by the Tianji formation, connected with each other. The ancient stone tablet bloomed with a suppressive atmosphere. I saw the wind and clouds surging above the 9 heavens. A huge word desolate, like a divine inscription, towered over in the sky. There is an unparalleled breadth of time. The moment the word Huang appears in the sky, the entire Tianji array spins rapidly. What happened? Zi's face showed an extremely solemn look. It felt like something happened around her. The next second, Ziya raised her head. The moment she looked at the divine text with the word desolate, all over her body up and down, it suddenly seemed like falling into a quagmire instantly. It was difficult to struggle. The wrists and ankles seemed to be tied with extremely heavy lead balls, and the movement of the limbs became extremely difficult. This, What is going on? Ziya was shocked. No, it wasn't just as simple as the physical load suddenly increasing hundreds or thousands of times. She even felt that her fighting spirit was completely suppressed by the aura of this ancient time. My fighting spirit was suppressed. Ziya raised his head, with a look of disbelief in his eyes. Even when facing the boss in the grey world, Ziya never felt his fighting spirit. The moment he was suppressed, the more desperate he became. When the time comes, Ziya's fighting spirit will feel stronger. Has his fighting spirit been suppressed? This is completely unimaginable for Ziya. Boom. Boom. The firepower of the magical plants is fully activated again, covering Ziya the whole body. At this moment, Z suddenly felt that the attack power of the magical plant had become completely different. The pea shooter's peas were more powerful and penetrating. When the watermelon was smashed down, it shook the whole head. It was dizzy. The attacks of Ice Shooter and Bingwa were accompanied by a deep chill, which even penetrated into the Tiangangchi mask, causing many pimples to appear on the skin all over Z's body. When he breathed out, he exhaled a stream of cold air, and his whole body began to shiver. Even his mobility and movement speed became much slower. What is going on with this island? That text can suppress 50% of my abilities. And when this formation is in operation, it can actually enhance the attack power and penetration power of all plants. Isn't the other party a defensive type divine tree master? Zi's brain almost stopped thinking. He was scratching his head and scratching his head. But no matter how he thought about it, Ziya couldn't understand why the plants on this island could pose such a big threat to him. I didn't want to waste time and energy on these unimportant things. Since you forced me, don't blame me for being rude. Ziya's eyes glowed golden again. The fighting spirit in her body suddenly became stronger. The second stage of fighting spirit state was activated. At this time, Zi's attributes suddenly received a doubled effect bonus. All plants must die? Ziya said coldly. Her figure turned into a golden light and rushed towards the defensive fortress. At this time, when all the firepower covered Zi's body again, it had no effect on her at all. Z's hand suddenly transformed into a bow and arrow with fighting intent. The moment she drew the bowstring, a golden arrow composed of fighting intent turned into a meteor and headed towards the mobile defense fortress. However, the giant nut and Gao the nut suddenly formed a solid and indestructible barrier. The golden arrows were blocked by the nut defense barrier. An explosion sounded. However, the nut barrier was not affected in any way. Trouble. Z snorted coldly, but was not affected again by nut's defense. Turning on the second form of fighting spirit, Z at this time was only thinking about how to solve the target in the fastest way. Since long-range attacks are not possible, just use melee combat to get rid of these troublesome plants. Zi's figure rushed towards the mobile defense fortress. At this moment, an extremely violent wind suddenly blew Zi's body far away. Clover. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 160. Chapter 160. A strong wind blew from Clover, directly blowing Zi's body away. This plant. Z's eyes moved slightly. Clover is a magical plant that she has never seen before. How could he even blow away his second level of fighting spirit? This is just a plant. Z's eyes once again bloomed with the fighting spirit. She didn't want to go all out. She also planned to save most of her abilities for later when she attacks the core area of the Sacred Tree Island. I didn't expect that just such an inconspicuous plant would bring me so much trouble. Start the third phase. Ziya muttered silently in her heart. The next second, golden fighting spirit began to emerge from her body. The momentum of her whole body suddenly changed dramatically. The strong wind emerging from the clover could no longer deal with Zis divinity, causing anything to shake up. This time, I will definitely tear up these troublesome plants of yours. Zis' eyes were full of anger and ferociousness. He rushed towards the mobile defense fortress. However, at this moment, Zis' figure was about to rush to the mobile defense fortress. Suddenly, on the flank, once again, a mobile defense fortress was built. Besides, Z turned his head, and his pupils shrank for a moment. In the center of his field of vision, a huge mobile defense fortress rushed in from the side, like a hill. If he was hit by this thing, even if there was a golden aura shield as the protection will also be hit hard. Z quickly pulled away and dodged sideways. When she turned her eyes to the new mobile defense fortress, her eyes were suddenly filled with a trace of fear. All of them were extremely ferocious piranha flowers. Not just piranha flowers, there are also ghost flowers that are filled with the breath of dead souls, exuding a breath of death. Even from a long distance, you can feel that these ghost flowers bring a threat to you. I even felt a slight dizziness in my brain, and quickly released the golden aura shield again to protect my mind. What effect can this flower have on my spirit? Feeling her own spiritual ocean, she received a certain impact. The expression on Z's face has completely changed. You know, her mental power has reached S level. Logically speaking, her mental power has reached at S level, you can open up the spiritual ocean. At this stage, the spiritual power of the Divine Tree Master will undergo a huge transformation. Ordinary illusions will be completely useless against the S-level spiritual power of the Divine Tree Master. Unless the opponent's higher mental power. Otherwise, if the spiritual power of the Divine Tree Master reaches S-level, it has crossed a higher dividing line and will not be easily affected by illusions. Of course, this does not mean that it will not be affected at all. But you know, there are just a bunch of netherworld flowers on the opposite side. Such low-level things, even in the Grey World copy, Z will not take these monsters seriously. When you come to this island, the strangest thing is that can even these nether flowers have an impact on my own spirit? Z's superpower is the concentration of fighting spirit. Her mental power is more difficult to control than the Divine Tree Master of the same level. What makes Z feel the most incredibly, the owner of the Sacred Tree Island had not yet arrived, but only a bunch of flowers and plants affected his fighting spirit. Suddenly, Z began to regret that he had rashly landed on this island. But it was very clear that the moment he landed on the Sacred Tree Island, the Sacred Tree Master on the opposite side must have discovered his existence. Even if he wanted to run away, it would be too late. He could only bite the bullet and completely capture the island. Boom. At this time, a third roar came from the side. There is also a third mobile defense fortress. If I had to use any words to describe Zis' current mood, I guess it's a kind of elegant and easygoing plant, right? Zis almost couldn't stand it any longer, so she could only start to run away and escape in the distance. What should I say? The two defensive fortresses have already forced me to activate the third battle mode. If I waste too much more, hand over all my last cards. Do I not have to play the subsequent battles? Use the teleportation ability. Zyman continuously consumed more than one-third of his mental power, finally opened the mobile defense fortress, and successfully crossed the third line of defense. These plants are used to defend against monsters in the Grey World. Arrived in this area. This should be the main battlefield of the Divine Tree Master, right? Zia took a breath. Then he looked around and observed. Generally speaking, it is enough to establish a three-layer defense line on the Sacred Tree Island. However, the area of Lushu's island is too large. It has 5 layers. Line of defense. Not only that, each line of defense is extremely long. Z is not sure whether she has arrived at the core area of the Sacred Tree Island. However, She is certain that as long as these plants do not chase after them, then the enemies we will face in the future will definitely not be too strong. At this moment, Z suddenly sensed a huge crisis. She immediately raised her head and looked at the sky. More than a dozen Tianqian cannons, across the next to the Zhishan spirit tower. The moment the deep muzzle was aimed at Z, the opponent immediately felt an extremely deadly attack. Boom! The next second, full of the power to destroy the world. The Tianqian cannon ejected extremely bright flames from the muzzle, covering Z's entire pupils.